In a surprising turn of events, Donald Trump, former U.S. president and now president-elect, has reportedly made a first diplomatic outreach to Russia, signaling his intention to address the Ukraine conflict head-on. Known for his America First stance and often unconventional foreign policy, Trump's initial actions indicate he may be serious about his campaign pledge to end the costly war in Ukraine, potentially appending years of strategy that had focused on deterring Russian advances. Yet, while his supporters see this as a hopeful step toward a long-awaited peace, critics argue that Trump's approach may prioritize U.S. interests to the detriment of Ukraine's sovereignty and stability in Eastern Europe. Whether this move will usher in lasting peace or lead to new complications remains to be seen, and it's worth exploring the significant questions this approach raises. The details of Trump's call to Putin. According to sources close to the Trump team, the recent call between Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin touched upon four main issues. This phone call, reportedly conducted from Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence, appears to include preliminary possibilities for de-escalation and open lines for further dialogue. Although unconfirmed by either the White House or the Kremlin, multiple reports from U.S. sources have brought this exchange into the public eye. The points Trump reportedly emphasized in the call were urging de-escalation. Trump implored Putin not to escalate the conflict further, an appeal aimed at halting the constant stream of military assaults that has marked this war since its inception, highlighting U.S. military presence. He reminded Putin of the U.S. military deployments across Europe, perhaps as a veiled warning that the U.S. could still pose a formidable obstacle to Russian ambitions. Pushing for further talks, Trump expressed a desire for continued negotiations, laying the groundwork for more substantial discussions around ceasefire conditions and peace treaties. Discussing territorial concessions. Trump is said to have broached the sensitive issue of territory, possibly hinting that Ukraine might consider ceding some areas to Russia as part of a peace agreement. This final point has sparked controversy. The idea that Ukraine might trade land for peace has been met with resistance, especially among Ukrainians who see it as undermining their sovereignty. This suggestion has raised concerns within Ukraine and among allies, as it could set a precedent for appeasement that emboldens aggressive territorial claims. Kremlin's response and the denial. In response to the media reports, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov denied that any conversation took place, labeling it pure fiction. Still, the Kremlin stopped short of denouncing Trump's election as a negative development. On the contrary, Putin has spoken positively of Trump's victory, going so far as to describe him as a manly leader. This description, though minor, could hint at Moscow's interest in cooperating with a U.S. administration that may adopt a more accommodating stance toward Russia. Moreover, Putin's praise suggests he recognizes Trump's unique style of leadership, which includes an emphasis on directness and negotiation rather than strict adherence to long-standing diplomatic protocols. Yet, even as Trump's methods may resonate with Putin, many analysts caution that flattering words alone cannot overcome the deep-seated mistrust that has characterized U.S.-Russia relations, especially since the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Evaluating the prospects for Trump's peace plan. Reports have surfaced from Trump's team regarding a tentative strategy for achieving peace. Although many details remain speculative, these insights provide a window into how Trump might pursue this ambitious goal. A frozen front line and buffer zone. One of Trump's central proposals is to freeze the current front lines, creating a neutral buffer zone between Russian and Ukrainian forces. According to insiders, this buffer would be approximately 1,200 kilometers long, stretching across contested areas to create a physical and symbolic separation between both sides. Trump's plan suggests that European troops, perhaps from France, Germany, or the UK, could be deployed to maintain this buffer, thus sparing American forces from direct involvement. In principle, this setup would reduce the likelihood of further incursions, but it raises serious logistical and political questions. Would European countries be willing to deploy troops to a conflict that has deeply divided public opinion? Furthermore, the idea of ceding territory as a condition for peace has its own complications, not least because Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has staunchly defended Ukraine's territorial integrity. Surrendering land to Russia would almost certainly be a contentious move within Ukraine, potentially sparking political backlash. Abandoning NATO ambitions? Another reported component of Trump's plan is the cessation of Ukraine's NATO ambitions. This could be a key incentive for Russia, which has cited Ukraine's potential NATO membership as a primary security concern. By removing this factor, Trump's plan aims to reassure Moscow that Ukraine will not become a NATO staging ground, thus decreasing the perceived threat to Russia's borders. Yet this concession would mark a significant departure from the West's stance over the past decade. While many Ukrainian leaders and citizens have looked to NATO membership as a means of security and stability, agreeing to halt these ambitions could be seen as compromising Ukraine's right to align with Western institutions freely, rearming Ukraine as deterrence. To counterbalance these concessions, Trump's proposal reportedly includes a significant infusion of Western arms into Ukraine. The idea is to create a deterrent against any future Russian attacks, allowing Ukraine to maintain a defensive posture even if it relinquishes certain territories. By increasing Ukraine's military capabilities, the U.S. would seek to assure Kyiv that it would still possess the means to defend itself against any renewed Russian aggression. Challenges for the current administration: Biden's role in the transition. With approximately 70 days remaining in his term, President Joe Biden holds limited options for influencing the situation before handing over the reins. Nevertheless, Biden has indicated a commitment to ensuring a smooth and responsible transition of power. His upcoming meeting with Trump is expected to cover various foreign policy concerns, with Ukraine likely at the top of the agenda. Some sources suggest Biden will attempt to persuade Trump to adopt a stance more favorable to Ukraine, though this seems unlikely given Trump's track record of distancing himself from pro-Ukraine figures. Biden may also explore passing a final aid package for Ukraine, although Congress's impending transition to Republican control could make this challenging. Biden's other options are more drastic, such as reallocating frozen Russian assets to Ukraine or lifting the ban on Ukrainian strikes within Russia. While these measures would require significant consideration, they could also offer Ukraine additional leverage as it prepares for potentially transformative changes in U.S. policy. Europe's role in the conflict. The role of Ukraine's European allies is another critical component in any peace process. Europe has consistently provided military and financial support, but the sheer scale of this assistance has strained resources. Since the war's outset, the European Union has committed over $131 billion to Ukraine, a figure that dwarfs the contributions of any individual country outside the U.S. While Europe remains committed to Ukraine's defense, it faces a looming financial dilemma. Maintaining its support at current levels will require substantial additional funding, and this need could lead to tensions within the EU, as member states grapple with their own economic challenges. The escalating drone warfare. While diplomatic efforts unfold, the Ukraine-Russia conflict continues to intensify, with both sides engaged in an escalating drone war. Russia recently launched its most extensive drone assault on Ukraine to date, deploying 145 drones across various regions and resulting in multiple casualties. Ukraine responded with a counter-assault, firing 84 drones at Russian territory, including the Moscow region. These developments underscore the increasing reliance on drone technology, marking a new phase in the conflict. Both sides are leveraging these unmanned systems to strike deep into enemy territory, circumventing traditional defenses and inflicting damage with a lower risk to personnel. Zelensky's dilemma and Putin's position. As Trump's plan looms on the horizon, Zelensky finds himself in a difficult position. Accepting a peace deal that requires territorial concessions could risk alienating his support base, while rejecting it might lead to further isolation if U.S. assistance is scaled back. Zelensky will likely have to weigh his options carefully, balancing the need for ongoing support with the pressures of maintaining public support. For Putin, the outcome of these developments may be a net gain. Russia's strategy has often hinged on the assumption that Western unity would eventually falter, and with Trump's election, this prediction may be coming to fruition. The potential for a compromise that preserves Russia's territorial gains, limits NATO expansion, and sees U.S. retrenchment from Europe aligns closely with Moscow's strategic objectives. While Trump's overture to Putin has raised hopes among some observers, the road to peace in Ukraine remains fraught with challenges. The idea of trading land for peace, the creation of a buffer zone, and the halting of NATO ambitions All of these elements could redefine not only the Ukraine-Russia conflict but also the future of U.S. Europe-Russia relations. As Trump prepares to assume office once more, his administration will face the formidable task of turning these preliminary ideas into actionable policy. Whether this results in a lasting peace or merely a pause in hostilities remains to be seen. For now, Ukraine, Russia, and the international community hold their collective breath, awaiting the outcome of what could be a pivotal chapter in modern geopolitics.